Numbers 33, campsites from Ramesses to Jordan Jericho. These are the camping sites in the journey of the people of Israel after they left Egypt, deployed military under the command of Moses and Aaron. Under God's instruction, Moses kept a log of every time they moved camp by camp. They marched out of Ramesses the day after the Passover. It was the 15th day of the first month. They marched out, heads high and confident. The Egyptians, busy burying their firstborn whom God had killed, watched them go. God had exposed the nonsense of their gods. The people of Israel, they left Ramesses and they camped at Succoth. They left Succoth and they camped at Etham at the edge of the wilderness. They left Etham and they circled back to Pi-hahiroth, Ha'irath, east of Baal-zephon, and they camped near Migdol. They left Pi-hahiroth and they crossed through the sea into the wilderness. 3 days into the wilderness of Etham, they camped at Marah. They left Marah and they came to Elam, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. They left Elam and then they camped by the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and they camped in the wilderness of Sin. They left the wilderness of Sin and they camped at Dophkah. They left Dophkah and they camped at Alush. They left Alush and they camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They left Rephidim and they camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They left the wilderness of Sinai and they camped at Kibroth Hattava. They left Kibroth Hattava and they camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and they camped at Rithmah. They left Rithmah and they camped at Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and they camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and they camped at Risa. They left Risa and they camped at Kaelath. They left Kaelath and they camped at Mount Shaper. They left Mount Shaper and they camped at Heradah. They left Heradah and they camped at Makalath. They left Makalath and camped at Tahath. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mithkah. They left Mithkah and they camped at Hashmanah. They left Hashmanah and they camped at Moseroth. They left Moseroth and camped at Bnei Jaakan. They left Bnei Jaakan and they camped at Hor Haggidgad. They left Hor Haggidgad and they camped at Jobathath. They left Jobathath and they camped at Abernah. They left Abernah and they camped at Ezion Jaber. They left Ezion Jaber and they camped at Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. After they left Kadesh and they camped at Mount Hor at the border of Edom, Aaron the priest climbed the Mount Hor at God's command and he died there. It was the first day of the 5th month in the 40th year after the people of Israel had left Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. The Canaanite king of Arad, he ruled in the Negev of Canaan, heard that the people of Israel had arrived. They left Mount Hor and they camped at Zalmanah. They left Zalmanah and they camped at Punan. They left Punan and they camped at Oboth. They left Oboth and they camped at Lai-Barim at the border of Moab. They left Liam and they camped at Dibon-Gad. They left Dibon-Gad and they camped at Almon Diblathaim. They left Almon Diblathaim and they camped in the mountains of Abarim, which means across the river, within the site of Nebo. After they left the mountains of Abarim, they camped on the plains of Moab at Jordan Jericho. On the plains of Moab, their camp stretched along the banks of the Jordan from Beth Jeshemoth to Abel Shittim, which means acacia meadow. God spoke to Moses on the plains of Moab at the Jordan Jericho. Tell the people of Israel, when you cross the Jordan into the country of Canaan, drive out the native population before you. Destroy their carved idols. Destroy their cast images. Level their worship mounds so that you take over the land and make yourself at home in it. I've given it to you. It's yours. Divide up the land by lots according to the size of your clans. Large clans will get large tracts of land. Small clans will get smaller tracts of land. However the lot falls, that's it. Divide it up according to your ancestral tribes. But if you don't drive out the native population, everyone that you let stay there will become a cinder in your eye and a splinter in your foot. They will give you endless trouble right in your own backyards, and I will start treating you the way that I planned to treat them.